Neal Brown in his fifth season in West Virginia. We're happy to be joined by the coach here at the Voice of College Football. Neal, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, as you well know, much better than I do, although I've been watching West Virginia football for 40 plus years, it's a really unique situation, fan base, a very rabid and knowledgeable fan base. I find it intriguing that while it's a really small state in terms of population, the proportion of fans for that small of a state is just enormous. It's one of the largest fan bases in the country. So I think you knew what you were getting into in regards to just the fervor and the passion for West Virginia football there.
Absolutely. You want to play and you want to coach at places that it matters. And without a doubt, it matters here in West Virginia. We're unique. Arkansas may be the only other exception, is we really represent an entire state. And, our football program is, and obviously our university are so closely tied in with our entire state. And so we, for a state that has approximately 1.8 million, which is one of the smaller states in the country, I think a really good indicator is if you look at our football and our basketball attendance, and then our licensing. We're year in and year out, we're in the top 20 as far as our flying WV logo in sales. And so I think that speaks to the power of our fan base.
And I'll take it beyond that. If you go to the TV ratings, they much go beyond what you would think or would be expected for a school that size in a state that size, for sure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with, obviously the passion, but also, the quality of games that we're playing. It's like one of the more competitive non-conference schedules in the country, maybe a little too competitive in my opinion at some points, but and then the Big 12 conference is extremely competitive, a lot of close football games and a lot of really intriguing matchups, and I think that helps TV ratings as well.
You showed up at Troy. It was a 3-win football team. It took you one season. Then you guys took off. You had 3 consecutive double-digit win seasons. You had 3 consecutive bowl wins there. What did it take? What was that roadmap to turning it around at Troy?
Well, that was a place that had a lot of tradition. Unique in the sense that went from NAIA to Division II to 1AA, now FCS, and then up to Division I. Won NAIA national championship, won 2 Division II national championships, made it to the semifinals at the FCS level several times, and then experienced some success. And it was familiar. I was an assistant coach there, coached receivers there in 06 and 07, and I was the coordinator there in 08 and 09. And we were fortunate. We won 4 conference championships in a row, and they followed that up with a 5th in 2010 after I'd left to go to Texas Tech. And so a program with a lot of tradition, had won. The expectation was to win. It was down when we got there, but it didn't. But it had the expectation to win, and we had some really good players. We were able to put together a staff. Our administration at Troy was fully behind us from day one, and I think too is we had some difference makers at some key positions. Especially at quarterback. Brandon Silvers was our quarterback there in 16, and then in 17 as well. And he was a high-end Group of 5 quarterback, and I think that really helps. It really matters.
So then when you take that experience and now you're going into your 5th season at West Virginia, what has this experience looked like to you in regards to what you hope to accomplish? And in looking back on 4 seasons, what you believe the progress is in the program versus some of the things that you would like to see improve?
Well, I think when you look at it, we've just been average. We haven't been poor by any means or bad, but we haven't been what I would say good either, or above average. Just kind of been average. And I think when we took over a program in 2019 that in 2018 they They had a really talented roster, a roster that had either 5 or 6 draft picks. I don't have it right in front of me. A team that climbed into the top 10 in the country and then I think lost 4 of their last 5 games. And so we took over a team that was really, really young in 2019. We had some real holes. Really had a deficiency on the offensive line, which is one of the biggest factors in winning football games. And we didn't have much experience on defense. And so we went 5 in our first year, and I would argue probably that was a better coaching job than maybe our last couple 10-win seasons we had at Troy. Thought we overachieved. We won we beat a couple top 25 teams down the stretch, played well in November. And then we get into year 2, and we're starting to kind of hit the ground, and, we're making some strides in recruiting. Started to build the culture. The infrastructure was not in place, and that's not a knock on the previous staff at all. It's just, in 2012, West Virginia made the big jump to the Big 12 conference, leaving the Big East, and West Virginia had a ton of success in the Big East, and as an independent before that, and then it was a huge jump up in competition, and the infrastructure of the program just wasn't equal compared to some of the other teams that we're facing in our league week in and week out. And so we're starting to make some strides, going to work on a building and really kind of building our staff. And then COVID hits, right after our second spring practice. In 20, I thought we managed that well. We won 6 games, won a bowl game for the first time in a long time here. And then go into 21, and we start off behind. We go 2-4 and lose a couple close games, and then we win 4 of our next 6, and again a couple ranked wins. But then play really poorly in a bowl game against Minnesota, and Minnesota was just better at us in the time. And that was in December of 21, and we made some overreactions with some staff deals, and just underperformed in 22. We go 5-7. Thought we had a better roster than that. Probably the most disappointing season I've ever had as a head coach. The good thing about that, after making a quarterback change, we went 2 of our last 3, beat Oklahoma for the first time since joining the Big 12. Beat Oklahoma State on the road, which ended a long home winning streak for them, and first time we'd beaten, I think, Oklahoma State in 7 years. So 2 big wins to finish up, and now it's time to win. We've got the infrastructure, both from a brick and mortar. We have one of the nicest facilities in college football. We have the infrastructure from a people standpoint, meaning, strength conditioning, nutrition, sports psychology, support staff for our assistant coaches and analysts, et cetera, athletic training, our medical support. So we really have the infrastructure in place now. Now we need to go and perform better week in and week out on Saturdays.
And then on top of all that, Neal, you've had to deal with, along with everybody else in the profession, coming off COVID, boom, you get hit with acceleration in the transfer portal and what that's happened to college football, how that's affected and impacted the game in the last few years. NIL, that a component that I think most of us agree it's a great thing for the student athlete. It's something that they have earned the right to as the face of the game, and just as their right as American citizens. However, as a full component for the landscape of college football, very difficult to grasp and get a handle on it. And I got to think, in your position, it's a bit frustrating constantly juggling the roster and trying to figure out, where you have depth, where you need to add and so forth. And now we come out of another transfer portal session after spring practice. And, where does the roster sit, and how difficult has all that been to navigate in addition to just traditional recruiting?
Well, there's no doubt the job that we took here in January of 2019 is drastically different than the job that it currently is. And the entire world of college athletics really changed in a rather quick amount of time. And you had kind of this dynamic where you had COVID, everybody being apart. You had social injustice while everybody was apart. I think that, and you got political turmoil, which I think really split our country, and I think there's all kinds of divides there. And at the same time, all this kind of unrest, and everybody's trying to figure out a pandemic, social injustice, political differences, some of those type things. You have name, image, likeness, and the transfer portal, and all these things are kind of colliding. And not just college football, I think leadership in general, dealing with and leading 18 to 22, 23-year-olds, it's completely different. And I don't spend any time complaining about it. I think everybody's dealing with some of the same issues. It's not, it's a difficult deal. And I'm quick to point out, like, we have champagne problems. These are problems in college athletics that, for the most part, the decision makers that over college athletics really made poor decisions. And they were based out of greed over a number of years. And if we just shared revenues with players, we wouldn't be dealing with some of these issues right now. But the decision makers chose not to. And now we're dealing with ramifications of those. So I really, for us, really what affected us more than anything is in the summer of 21, when name, image, and likeness went legal, NCAA legal, and was recognized in West Virginia. We were really slower to react than some. And then during that off season of between 21 and 22, we lost a number of players, and we didn't have a collective in place. Our support for NIL systematically was pretty good, but from a financial standpoint, and the only standpoint that really matters in college athletics now, is we didn't have ways or processes in place for our guys to really earn money. And we lost like 6 defensive starters during that, and that really hurt us. We go from being a top 10 defense in 20 and a top 25 to top 30 defense in most categories in 21 to really falling off the map defensively. And so thankfully we have some things in place that we've had going back to late spring of 22, and our collective continues to build its resources, and it's given us a better opportunity to compete within our league and within the people we play against. We're not at the top, but we're definitely not at the bottom. We're in the competitive, what I say the competitive middle as far as NIL is concerned. And if you look at that, since we've established that, we haven't lost as many quality players. We've lost a few. I think everybody across the country has, but we had mass exodus there when we didn't have some of the NIL resources that we currently do.
West Virginia head coach Neal Brown here at the Voice of College Football. And you mentioned difficult decisions. You've got another one this summer that's more in your range of coaching that you have been used to for years and years and years. And that's, of course, a quarterback decision. You got Nico Markiel, you've got Garrett Green. Can you talk about what each one of them bring to the table and where you stand on that decision right now?
Nico was extremely was a highly recruited player, really kind of burst on the national scene, had a huge win. His Hamilton High School team out in Arizona had a big win over Bishop Gorman, where they came from behind late in the game, and he really kind of willed themselves, and that was on ESPN. But a really highly recruited kid. He's got natural leadership skills. He's a good runner. He's a dual threat. He throws the deep ball really well, and he's a winner. He's won at every level he's been at. Garrett Green is a elite athlete. He's fast, legit speed. He has a baseball background, which allows for him to have a really quick release, and he can make all the throws. So it's a competition, I feel like either one of these guys, whoever wins the competition, can go and give us a chance to win Big 12 football games.
You know, we think of spring practice as being one part where the team gets together for 15 sessions and has that, opportunity to get better. And then they see each other the first day of August and get going and ready for the season. But there's a lot of work to be done in between. What do you talk to your team about, those individual units, about how they can get better and prepare themselves for August camp, between spring and between summer camp?
Well, the thing that maybe the common fan doesn't understand, we're going to add, approximately 20 scholarship players to the mix, whether it's transfer or true freshmen, when we start or when we report back on Memorial Day. And then we've got 8 weeks over a 9-week period. They get the 4th of July off, but there's 8 weeks there where strength conditioning, we're able to do 2 hours of football work with them. We'll take advantage of that, offense, defense, special teams. The rules have been relaxed a little bit where you can't do anything competitively, but you can do some off-season work with a football, and you can do individual drills. And so the hope is when you start in August is your guys are in shape. They're bigger, faster, and stronger. They develop chemistry over the summer, and they should know what to do. And then fall camp's about competition, and then get repetitions to prepare yourself for the season.
And this season involves 4 more teams in the Big 12. So I think top to bottom, I don't think it's arguable. It's the most competitive league in the country. There are no easy outs. And now you got 4 more schools in the mix. How do you look at the Big 12 and navigating a grind that goes from week to week to week? And then it starts out, of course, with Penn State. I don't know if you enjoy, diving in against the top 5 to 10 team in the country right out of the gate, or you would like to ease into the season a little bit more, but it's obviously a pretty daunting schedule.
The Big 12 is the most balanced league in the country. And the good thing is you can win every game. You got a chance to win every week. Bad thing is you got a chance to lose every week.
Yep.
I think the talent across the league is very similar. And so the 4 teams that we're adding, BYU, Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati, all 4 of those teams are quality programs. What their adjustment's going to be having to play week in and week out, high-end competition. But those are teams that are used to winning, and they're going to be very competitive within our league in a short amount of time, probably as soon as this year. But the league's extremely competitive. It's tough. I think there's a high level of coaching in the league in all 3 phases of the game. And then, our out-of-conference schedule. We played 9 league games, which more and more conferences are getting to. We played 9, and then, we open up on the road for the 3rd consecutive year at a Power 5. We're the only school in the country to do that. We're the only school in the country. I think one other school in the country has played 11 Power 5 games the past 3 seasons. That's not ideal scheduling. That's not how I would do it. I think it's important for us to play regional rivalries, but, the next 2 years we're playing Penn State and Pitt in the same year, and that's just not the best thing long-term for West Virginia football. We need to be in the business where we're playing one regional rival. We need to play an FCS home game and then a G5 home game. And we need to increase our home schedule by 1 game. I think it's the best thing for the state of West Virginia and Morgantown. And that's what more and more Power 5 schools are doing. The regional rivalries are great. I'm all for playing Pitt every year. We don't fear this game against Penn State. We respect them. I really respect James Franklin and what he's done. They're going to have maybe their best team that they've had in a long time. They'll be preseason right around maybe even top 5, but right around the top 5. And so it's a game that we're going to have to get ready in fall camp. You don't ease into that. And it's a challenge that we're accepting, but it's something that we've got to change moving forward.
One more thing, Neal, on the Penn State game, as you mentioned, for a 2nd consecutive year, there's going to be a ton of people watching this game. It's going to be on a national stage against a major team. Who are some of those guys on both sides of the ball that you would like to highlight? I will say, from a selfish standpoint, I'm a nerd that wants to know everybody's roster top to bottom. Who are some of those guys you'd like to highlight that could be key factors right out of the gate?
Well, I think defensively, it goes for us, I think I'll give you the guys that starting from the back end and working it forward is Aubrey Burks is a safety that is, I think he's one of the top safeties in the Big 12. I think he's a guy that's going to be an NFL player. Last year was a sophomore, true sophomore, first year starting. I thought he played well, got better as the year went. Lee Koba returns after playing almost every snap for us last year at Mike linebacker. He's a really physical presence. He was one of our most improved players in the spring. And then Jared Bartlett plays the bandit position for us. I think he's an elite pass rusher, and he's going to have a big year. And then Sean Martin is a defensive lineman, I think, that really made strides this year, went last year, and I think he's got a chance to be an all-conference player. And then offensively for us, it starts up front. Zach Frazier has got a chance to be an All-American. Wyatt Milam, Doug Nestor, those two guys have a chance to be all first-team all-conference players. They're guys that I think are future NFL players as well. Our left guard, Thomas Remack, was a freshman All-American. He's continuing to get better. At running back, C.J. Donaldson was a guy that burst on the scene as a freshman. He's got elite talent. And then Devin Carter, who's a transfer from NC State, and Cole Taylor, a tight end transfer from LSU. Those guys had really big springs catching the football.
Coach Neal Brown, West Virginia, entering his 5th season. Of course, big date against Penn State to open things up, but a lot of work to get done before that. Neal, appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.